Hello everyone, my name is Faramaz and let's take a look at how we can make a tutorial for a game. Let's see what tutorial I made, and based on that I'm gonna walk you through the code. So if you make a new game, by the way this is my game Quicksand. Also I have to credit Andrew as well. I'll link his channel in the description. So you can see here there is a hand pointing at our hero. Our hero is fading in and out, and there is something up here, a pop-up that tells you what to do. And then all the other buttons are disabled. So you cannot click on anything else other than this hero. So let's tap on the warrior to select him. And then as you can see, the hand moved here and the pop-up got disabled over there, and this one got activated. Let's click on the enemy, and then it tells us to press attack to damage to the selected enemy. So let's press attack. This is all done using find objects in the scene. I'm gonna walk you through the code in a moment. So as you can see, every step of the and you can see the text. Every step of the tutorial has been coded. So at this point, I can just press end to end the tutorial to show you the rest of it. We can choose a hero. Based on what hero we choose, we get the hero here, and he's talking to us. He says, "Hello stranger, thank you for choosing me. Are you the one who found the champion's spoils?" Yes, I am. Where do I press to get rid of this? Anywhere on the screen. I can just tap here and then it goes away. As you can see, there is the hand again. We can click on the ship shop and it goes on and on. It also knows which scene you are in, and based on transitions to the scene, based on a bunch of booleans, it knows how and what to show you. So for now, let's close it. Let's look at the code. So what I've prepared for you is in the tutorials, and I have to go to town tutorial. This is one of the tutorials for the town. As you can see, there are steps into it. At least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. Each step is a boolean, and you can go through it by setting each of these booleans to be false. So first time entering, true. So it is the first time entering into the town. If it's false, which I set it here to be false, it becomes the second time or the third time, not the first time entering the town. Okay, let's look at our manager. Where is it? Tutorial manager. Oh, by the way, I'm so sorry, I have to zoom in. This was so small. Tutorial manager has all of these booleans. These are properties, so you can access the getters and setters from anywhere because they're static. You can access them by class name and from anywhere in the code. They must be static. If they are not, you have to make instance of the object, and that would make your code messy. So after we create all of these steps, booleans, we go into our town and let's take a look. We have all of our buttons. You need to include unityengine.ui if you want to use the button class. You have one game object called instantiated hero pop-up because we need our pop-ups to appear. We have our tutorial positions as an array. We have a hero pop-up creator, which I'm gonna walk you through it in a moment. We have our next tutorial button. That's where you saw that I pressed anywhere on the screen to go to the next tutorial. It was a button actually that was completely faded out, like there was no transparency to it. It was all transparent, sorry. And then we have a button deactivator, which activates and deactivates our buttons. I'm gonna walk you through that too. Object fader, again, gonna walk you through it. Hand pointer creator, same. Hand positions, you need an array of hand positions. So let's take a look at how each of these objects work. So the buttons, we use find objects of type button to find all of them as game objects. No, sorry, not as game objects, as button type, but as the part of the game object class. So game object is a class, probably static, and it has this function that finds all of a type. We find all buttons in the scene. Make sure all the buttons are activated. So if one of them is deactivated, like here, it's not going to be inside the list, the array that you have here. Make sure you deactivate every single button that you are not using at the start. For example, next tutorial button shouldn't be activated at the start, so I made it deactivated. Tutorial manager that first time playing equals player that is first battle. So what I'm doing here is out of the scope of this tutorial. This is a save file. This is a save a script kind of. So what I'm doing is I'm accessing my save script, and I'm accessing its is first battle value. You can have any type of save file that saves anything that can be a point of reference, so that you can access one single boolean that tells you whether it's the first time the player is playing or not. So if it's the first time, then set the tutorial manager, not if it's the first time, at any time, set the first time playing to be the value of is first battle. So if it's true, then it's the first time playing. If it's false, no, it's not the first time playing. And then we have this function called set all first times. So we had all these booleans, right? Inside tutorial manager. We set all of these to be the same as is first battle if and only if this one is true. So if is first battle is true, then we set all of them to be is first battle. Any other outcome would be all of them would be false. So let's see. And this works because if you go into the town for the first time and you come back out, like you close the game, you come back in, it's gonna play the tutorial again. So you need this safeguard to make sure it's the first time they are playing. And then you set the first battle to be false, so that if they close the game or they exited the game, anything that happened, the tutorial doesn't play again. And on closing the game, opening again, it doesn't happen again. And we have the save player. I'm probably gonna make a tutorial about saving the data, so don't worry about it. It's also based on Bracky's tutorial. You can find his link down below in the description. The next step is to see which step of the tutorial we are in. So let's say it's the first time entering the town. What are we gonna play for them? What are we gonna show them? It's probably the first tutorial, right? So here, after seeing if it's the first time or not, we have to set it to false, because it's not the first time anymore. They are already in the town. So what are we gonna do next? If you're not familiar with the coroutines, it's something, it's a function that happens again and again until you stop it, or it's a loop that never ends. You can stop it, you may not stop it, but here this is not a loop. This is just to put a stop in between, to put a kind of a sleep in the middle of the code. That's called wait for seconds. So let's go to this function. Go to implementation. Here it is. Here you can see yield return new wait for seconds one float of 1. So this line makes sure that after these 2 lines of code are executed, you're waiting for 1 second and then continuing to the next line. So IEnumerator is the prerequisite. You have to have the return type of IEnumerator in the function, for the function, and then you have to say a start coroutine so that this function gets executed. If you call it, it won't execute. You have to put it inside a start coroutine. After that, let's look at create hero popup. Here we have a class. It has to inherit from mono behavior, so it's a Unity class. You have a game object hero popup prefab that I'm going to show you, and an object fader which we are gonna look at it later. What it does is that it creates that hero popup that we saw earlier. It gets reference of game object instantiated hero popup, so basically a pointer, a reference to it, so that the changes made to it are persistent. It's not a copy when you send it in. It's the game object itself. It gets a string text, a position, and a skin tire. Don't really care about the skin tire here. It's something about other parts of the code. But what we need to take a look at is here inside our resources. Where are they? Here in the resources, you can see that I've made a hero popup. What is it exactly? If we set the alpha to be 1, you can see that it has a dialog box, which is this in the background, the white thingy, a text inside the dialog box, and a hero spawn position. You have to configure it so that whoever that's gonna talk is gonna be in the right place, and the text is in the right place. Probably it's better to put something in there to see the boundaries of your text. And what you need to do in order to make it fade in and out, you have to put a canvas group on top of it. What a canvas group does is that it has an alpha, and if you lower it, it fades out. So what we did in object fader that we are gonna look at is that we changed this alpha. So let's see. In the hero popup creator, we pass in this hero popup as a serialized field or a public variable. So you have this mono behavior class that has a serialized field or a public member. You can pass anything to it as long as it's a game object or the type that's specified in the code. So if I drag and drop it, I can put it here. And what you need to do after that is to access the text. So you have this function that's called getComponentInChildren that accesses this guy's children, and gets a component of text, which is this one. It accesses it and gets this one from it. You set the text. So far we have a pop-up that is this. So we are setting this game object to be our pop-up. We are instantiating it. We have the prefab. We have the position. We are instantiating it as a child of this position here. And also we have our get component in children text, which is accessing the text here. And you can set the text. So what's left? What is left is the hero itself. For you, it would be a prefab. For me, it's a prefab, but I have another way of accessing it. I use the get type.name. I have some more code in other files, in other scripts that lets me get from my hero database, from the get hero function. I get the first hero, and I get the type and the name. So it would be a warrior, it would be a mage, it would be a whatever. That's the name of the hero. And I get the prefab from our resources and I put it into the hero. These all doesn't matter. You can instantiate anything you want in the hero place. Other than that, you need to make sure that you have your object fader that appears and disappears the canvas group that I showed you. Let's see what this function does. This is object fader. In object fader, I have an appear canvas group function that is basically a coroutine, and it accepts a game object. What does this function do? It accesses the canvas group on the game object by using get component, and then while the alpha of canvas group is less than 1, add to it 0.1 seconds. 0.1 float, so 0.1 to it, and then wait for 0.2 seconds, 0.02 seconds. So every 0.2 seconds, it's gonna add 0.1 to the alpha, and it becomes a smooth fading in effect. We also have disappear canvas group, which disappears, makes it fade out. Let's go back to Hero Popup Creator. We have to also set, this doesn't matter. This too. You would have, you won't work with the spine. This is for spine's skeleton mechanism. Let's take a look at our town tutorial. So, what happens here? We are calling create hero popup. We are passing in the instantiated hero popup, which is a game object. We are passing it as a reference. So it changes it on the fly, like in the function. It doesn't send in a copy. We are passing it the text that we want in the pop-up. We are passing it the first tutorial position, the transform component of it. And we are passing it 1, which doesn't matter. It is the skin tier of it, which changes the looks of the hero. So, button deactivator. What does button deactivator do? Let's go and see. Deactivate all buttons except for, you pass it in an array of buttons, and you give it the name of the button that you want it to not deactivate. So in a for each loop, you say for each button in buttons, if the name of the button is not the same as name, then set its intractable property to be false. So it becomes not intractable. Yeah, that was hard. Not intractable. So for the else, if the button is the same, the name of the button is the same as the name here, then make the intractable to be true. We need this because after one step, all the buttons become unintractable. So you would have to make it intractable again. We also have activate all buttons. This makes sure that you have all the buttons activated again. So, with all of this done, let's see how we can have a transition to another scene and have the tutorial going without mixing up the steps. So we had these booleans, right? After they click on this next tutorial button, it goes to the second tutorial because I have actually, let me show you. In the town, in the canvas, I have made this next tutorial button. As you can see, it extends to the whole screen, to the whole length of the camera in different aspect ratios also. So basically covers the whole playable area. And then you would have to make sure that the alpha is all the way to 0 in the color. So all the way to 0. And then you add to it the functions that it needs to call. So if it's clicked, it has to call second tutorial. You can also add fourth tutorial if you need in the future. You have 2 tutorials when you come back to the town and you have to do something else. You have to press on the whole screen to go to next tutorial. So for now, let's take a look at second tutorial. Second tutorial here, it calls another coroutine. Second tutorial coroutine. Start coroutine, object fader, disappear canvas group. So what we do, the hero itself doesn't disappear when we change the canvas group's alpha because it's been instantiated after the hero pop-up has been instantiated. So we have the hero pop-up first and then the hero comes after that, so it doesn't disappear by the alpha value of the canvas group. I don't know why. It probably has something to do with it being a spine, but after we disappear the instantiated hero pop-up, we can change its text to be whatever we want it to be and then appear it again. It seems like there is this fading effect that it gets destroyed and then comes back, but it's actually just changing the text. And then after appearing the canvas group, we can then instantiate the hand pointer. So what is a hand pointer? What you can do to have something to point at your objects, point at your buttons, point at where they need to click on, is to make a sprite. Let's go to our sprites. Make a sprite and then make sure it's set to sprite, apply it, drag it, drop it in here, make a game object out of it, make a prefab out of it. So what do? We go into our resources, we drag it, drop it here. This is a hand pointer, but the difference is it's not a sprite anymore. It has the component, the sprite renderer, but it's actually a game object. It's a prefab now. And then we can go to the animation panel and create an animation for it. Name it whatever you want. For example, hand anim. We can put it, oh my god, put it here, for example, hand anim. Do I have hand anim? No, hand pointer anim. I can change it to hand anim. Okay, save it. And then what you do is to make sure you go wherever you need to. Like for example, you go halfway in, half a second, you press record, you move it to the left wherever it needs to point, and then you copy this, you move it to the 1 second point, and you paste it. So what happens? It points to wherever you want it to. After you do that, you have a prefab that has an animation now. So you need to make another, let's delete it, another class. The reason I'm making these classes is that it makes the code more clean. When it's cleaner, when it's separated out, you could also make one single helper class that has all of these inside, but I prefer it this way. So hand pointer creator has the game object instantiated hand pointer, and the game object, that's the serialized field. Remember, you can drag and drop the objects inside the inspector. Hand pointer prefab. So you put the hand pointer prefab there and you give it the position so that it has a parent when it gets instantiated. Also, I set it to be at 0, like 0, 0, 0 as its local position, so it's centered into the in the parent. You also have destroy hand pointer. This one you just call it because it's here. It has a reference to it, so it can destroy it. So let's see. We have our town, hand pointer creator that instantiate hand pointer, hand positions. You also have these small empty game objects for your hand positions, which you can move it around and set it to the position that you want it to be. Also, if you want it to be the other way around, for example, here for the second time entering the town, I want the pop-up to go 180 degrees to like rotate 180 degrees. So basically it's flipped. I have to say local rotation of my text. I want it to be 180 degrees back because here, if you take a look at tutorial position 2, I set the rotation to be negative 180. So it flips I flip the parent so that the whole thing gets flipped, but at the same time the text gets flipped. You have to set the text to be back in place. Also, you can change its position. Let's see now let's see how we can transit to another scene. So for example, my ship shop button, when I set it to be activated, all of the buttons, remember, get deactivated, this one gets activated. When I click on ship shop, I have a script on it that's scene change. It does the transition for me to go to the ship shop. So when I go to the ship shop, let's just test it out here to see if it works. Yeah, see, if I click on the ship shop, I go to the ship shop. So what I do in order to make it so it shows me the tutorial for the first time playing is that, let's find ship shop. ship. No, don't save it. Here I make another script that's called ship tutorial, and I have my hero pop-up creator and hand pointer creator to put it in these places. Where is it? Here and here. Also, I have the buy button. I don't need the upgrade button for now. I don't know why I have it here, but I have the hand positions. So what happens is that if I go to this, as you can see, I go in and on the start, remember this is a Unity function. It's in all monobehavior children. So on a start, make sure all the buttons get into the buttons array, and then if tutorial manager, that second time entering from ship shop. So we are going into the ship shop. We haven't gotten out of the ship shop yet. So what does that mean? It means that second time entering the ship shop is still true. It hasn't happened yet. So after we go from ship shop to the town, this happens. Second time entering from ship shop, if it's true, then set it to false. So after this happens, this block of code, where is it? This block of code doesn't happen anymore. So you have to make sure that you have all these steps set up and you know the steps of your tutorial. You can always add them later too for each step. But this only happens if we haven't exited the ship shop yet for the first time. So this function does everything that the other one does. And after this happens, you would have to click on the exit button. And exit button gets you back to the map. And map, not the map, the town, it gets you back to the town. And also town has this else if here. It must be an else if. Otherwise it wouldn't work. Else if here checks if it's the second time entering from ship shop. If it's true, then it runs this function and it also sets it to false. Third time entering, this happens. Fourth time entering, this happens. But these don't happen if this one is true. If this is true, only this one happens. That's why we need the else if. Yeah, every step you have to code. You can also probably make a universal, not a universal, like a class that has something like this. Something like this, because the template, the structure of each of these classes are kind of the same. So it's better to have a class that has these functions that can call the create hero pop-up. They can deactivate all buttons. Like you just pass in these variables. But I was lazy, I didn't do it. You can do it though. I'm gonna leave all these files, all files related to the tutorial, a link in the description. It's a part of the whole files of the game. Like all the files of the game are gonna be on the GitHub, so you can look through them, analyze the code, maybe even you can improve it and send it to me. That would be great. So till next time, have a good day.